You know, it's sort of interesting with the iPad 5th generation, which came out about 4 years ago. It was actually so far ahead of its time with its M1 chip that it's probably still one of the better options out there, even in 2026. And here's why. Make sure to hit that like button and hype this video so more people see this. I feel like Apple's M1 chip is still kind of overpowered compared to some of the competition. It's still going to be powerful enough for probably over 90% of the things that you would need to do on your tablet. You could even do 4K video editing on here, multitasking, and it can handle pro level apps like DaVinci Resolve. It's also more powerful than the A series chips found in the base model iPads, like the newest iPad 11th generation. As you can see here by the benchmark results, you're also going to get Apple Intelligence on this iPad, considering it has the required 8 gigabytes of RAM. So it's going to have the latest AI driven features, which some of the older iPads aren't going to have, and you won't get on the base model iPads. Nice thing is this works with the Apple Pencil 2nd generation, unless you go with the USB-C Apple Pencil, which is good for drawing, taking notes, and that kind of thing. It also works with the Magic Keyboard, since it's the same body as the iPad Pro from 2018 to 2022, and it's also going to fit the same accessories as the newer iPad Air as well. So you've got plenty of options when it comes to accessories. Now, of course, this doesn't have the 120 Hz ProMotion of the iPad Pro models, but the iPad Air 5 still has a better quality screen compared to the entry-level iPads like the newer iPad 11. And the size of this, the resolution, brightness, I feel like build quality on this is pretty much the same on this as those newer versions of the iPad Air as well. Although this iPad Air is actually a tad lighter by a few grams. You can usually find this for around $300 refurbished, or of course even less if it's used. So it's definitely more of a budget-friendly iPad with some better specs than the entry-level iPad. It's also on the latest iPad OS version and should get updates probably for at least a few more years yet. It's got the Touch ID right there on the power button. Again, very similar to the newer iPad Airs. It also has video out if you want to connect this to a projector, TV, or external monitor using an HDMI adapter, which surprisingly, there's still some tablets out there that don't have that feature in 2026, and they cost more than this iPad. It also has things like Stage Manager. You can do multitasking on here as well if you want to be a little more productive. To me, really the only downside with the iPad Air 5 is it only starts with 64 gigabytes of storage, which the newer ones start at 128. And I can definitely see why. When I updated this to the newest software update, I had to delete 2 games and a video editing app on here because the new software update just takes up too much room. So if you do go with this iPad, you'll definitely want the 128 gigabyte version, so it actually has some usable space on it. If you're wondering how the battery life on this iPad compares to others that I've tested, it lasted about 5 hours in my typical battery drain test at 100% screen brightness, which is the same as the iPad Air from 2024 and 2025. Now it's only got 2 speakers, one on each side, even though it looks like a quad speaker setup. But again, that's how the newer versions are as well. And it's not gonna sound the best out there, but probably good enough for most things. Here's a quick sample, just to give you an idea of how it sounds. I feel like the cameras on here haven't really changed much since this older iPad, although they did move the front-facing 12 megapixel ultra wide camera to the long edge now instead of the short, but it's got a 12 megapixel wide angle lens on the back, and it can shoot up to 4K resolution at 60 frames per second for video recording. You could still use this for Zoom meetings or FaceTime and things like that if you need to, as long as you don't mind that front facing camera placement. I think you could even use this for recording videos for your YouTube channel as well, or other social media platforms if you wanted to. But here's a few quick samples just to give you an idea of what to expect. I think if you plan on doing a lot of creative work or 4K video editing, maybe you're gonna do a lot of drawing, I think the M1 chip and the 8 GB of RAM definitely give you enough performance for those and multitasking as well. Plus, I know some people prefer the laminated display on this over the base model iPad for drawing. I think there's still a lot of good things about this iPad, and a lot hasn't really changed since this one. Of course, some of this is gonna come down to personal preference, because you're not going to get as many software updates as the newer iPads, but this definitely has the power and most of the features you would need at a more affordable price. If you like tablets, phones, and other tech, I've got a lot more stuff that I'm working on, so you'll want to keep an eye out for those upcoming videos. So if you've made it this far into the video, you may want to say thanks by subscribing, and don't forget to give a thumbs up if this video was helpful. This is Brian from Fishbee Productions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.